Render to Caesar what is Caesar's, but render to God what is God's. Jesus said that although we live in this world, that we need not live of this world. Roland Martin is going to have 3 members of the Donald Trump Evangelical Advisory Board on his show today. I was hoping, but knew it wouldn't happen, that Pastor Darrell Scott would be one of the members that appeared on the show, but Pastor Scott has chosen once again to dodge Roland Martin, because, and possibly for a good reason, because the show may have devolved based on Roland Martin calling him out. Donald Trump has a unique quality of causing people not to answer questions, to dance around questions, to filibuster, and to double talk. Roland Martin is going to ask these pastors some serious questions regarding faith, morality, and character. And one of the panelists in the latter half of this video, Lauren, is basically going to call it for what it is. These men of God, whose responsibility is to help to bring us closer to God, give us a higher sense of morality, humility, etc. These men are seeking to be near Caesar. They are seeking to be near power. They are seeking to get crumbs from the table. Now I'm going to play this segment, which is Roland's interaction with these 3 pastors, preachers, reverends, etc. And then I'm going to play the interaction that he had with his panel, so that you get a flavor for the difficulty in actually separating viewpoints regarding church and state for the most part. But more than that, you can actually see that we're all individual human beings, and we all have different areas of focus, and it becomes very clear when he's speaking to his panel where he's coming from. And I wasn't aware that his wife is a pastor. And I got an issue with female pastors, but that's neither here nor there. But he has been exposed to the black evangelical community in a possibly more direct manner than most people. So anyway, here is the clip from News One Now, Roland Martin show.
All right, folks. Also, yesterday, Trump met with various evangelical leaders, more than 100, trying to court their support for his candidacy. They met yesterday at a hotel in New York. He also announced at that particular meeting his evangelical advisory board. 3 of the members of that board join us right now on News One Now. See to my left, Bishop Harry Jackson, who has been very prominent, of course, in conservative circles. He joins us right now. Bishop, good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, then. All right, guys. Also joining us right now is Pastor A.R. Bernard out of New York. He joins us. And also Pastor Mark Burns, who previously had endorsed Donald Trump. And so, gentlemen, glad to have you here. First up, before I get into the interview real quick, you're a member of the advisory board, Bishop Jackson. Have you endorsed Trump?
No, it is not an endorsement. It's an opportunity to influence the campaign and get some benefits for black people.
So if you're not endorsing him, but you're trying to influence the campaign, does that mean you're supporting Trump?
Well, yes, and we're putting forth some agenda items: education, jobs, criminal justice reform. These are issues that black people need to have Hillary step up and put some concrete things on the table. And so we want to help Trump get it right about the issue.
So you are supporting Trump?
At this particular time, I'm advising Trump, yes, and I will support him if he follows through with all the things that he's promising to do.
Pastor Bernard, you're being a part of this board as well. Does that mean you are endorsing and supporting Donald Trump?
I am not endorsing Donald Trump, and if you think that's advising him is supporting him, then fine. I'm impressed that he asked for advice. I think that's a very important step. And, you know, my context, Roland, is different from many of the clergy who were there in that small group of about 20 leaders before the 1,000 group meeting. And, you know, if he becomes president, you know, I want him to be president of all America, but I'm particularly interested in what he's going to do to address the socioeconomic plight of black people in this country, especially marginalized and disenfranchised.
Yesterday, Pastor E.W. Jackson released this video of Donald Trump criticizing the faith of Hillary Clinton. Guys, can y'all play that, please?
Anything about Hillary in terms of religion. Now, she's been in the public eye for years and years, and yet there's nothing out there. There's like nothing out there. It's going to be an extension of Obama, but it's going to be worse, because with Obama you had your guard up. With Hillary you don't. And it's going to be worse. So I think people were saying, some of the people were saying, let's pray for our leaders. And I said, well, you can pray for your leaders. And I agree with that. Pray for everyone. But what you really have to do is you have to pray to get everybody out to vote for one specific person. And we can't be, again, politically correct and say we pray for all of our leaders, because all of your leaders are selling Christianity down the tubes, selling the evangelicals down the tubes, and it's a very, very bad thing that's happening.
Pastor Burns, I want to go to you. Here you have Donald Trump questioning the faith of Hillary Clinton. He says we have our guard up. He essentially was questioning the faith of President Barack Obama. Should he be doing that when there have been questions about his faith, when he didn't even know how to use 2 Corinthians, when he said 2 Corinthians? Was that appropriate?
Well, Roland, first of all, thank you for having us on, and I think that's a very, very good question. I think also, as Bishop Jackson and Pastor A.R. Bernard just previously stated, that's really one of the reasons why the Evangelical Executive Advisory Board was formed, to advise Mr. Trump and to really try to guide and structure some of the words and the things that he may have said, and some may have found offensive in the past.
He has not answered the question. The answer is no, he should not have questioned someone else's faith. He is going to continue to ramble on and on. Donald Trump's viewpoints could use a good dose of Sunday school and Wednesday night Bible class. But these guys, well, Pastor Mark Burns, basically cannot acknowledge that. And they apparently believe, or he does, along with the rest of his advisory board, that they can shape or change Donald Trump. Good luck with that one.
That we can, as a group of leaders, believers, Christian leaders of this country, could come together and really help advise him. I don't think Mr. Trump at all, I think he understands that areas he may be lacking in, which is he professes to be a Christian, professes to be a Presbyterian, but this evangelical community, this Christian community in this country is large and great, and I think he recognizes where he might be short and lacking in his expertise, which really should applaud him for recognizing where he might be lacking.
He's lacking being a Christian, as he stated, just because you call yourself a Christian, that doesn't make you a Christian. Donald Trump is not a Christian. Period.
Reach out to him.
But I need to answer my question. Should Donald Trump have questioned the faith of Hillary Clinton, and should he have questioned the faith of President Barack Obama, who both of them have been very public about their faith, both of them have talked about their faith? Why did he question their faith yesterday?
Roland, if I may jump in here, I think we have to be very careful when we begin to question someone's faith and make sure that we have information. I've known the Clintons for 20 years, and I know that they identify themselves as Christians. They have practiced their Christian faith in the context of the Methodist denomination. Donald Trump doesn't know them that way. I understand that. But I think we need to be careful when we begin to question the validity of the faith that a person identifies themselves with.
Mr. Jackson, Pastor Bernard said we should, be careful with that. No, should Donald Trump be careful with that? Because again, this is the guy who kept pushing this whole notion of the president's birth certificate, this whole idea of him being, secretly a Muslim. Yes, that was him yesterday questioning the faith, saying we had to have our guard up with the president.
Well, that video really wasn't supposed to be leaked to the public. Let me say that first of all.
Amazing. So what you're saying basically is you didn't want the public to know what was going on behind closed doors because you had something to hide, something possibly to be ashamed of, possibly some type of a deal being made. How the hell can you admit that that video shouldn't have been shown? Dishonesty.
I think he was trying to.
But he still said it.
He still said it. He's trying to talk from the heart. I don't think anybody's faith should be judged in that way. What we're trying to do, though, is give him a framework for values and to bring a contribution that can help African American people, especially, and people at the kind of bottom rung of the culture get a chance in life. So that's really our focus from a faith.
Wait a minute. What do you mean the bottom rung of the culture? No, African Americans are not at the bottom rung of the culture. If anything, we are middle to top rung of the culture. Everything that you see out here as far as music, dance, fashion, etc., the majority of it is derived from the black community. Now, if you want to talk about socioeconomic rungs on the ladder, then you would probably be correct. But if you're talking about culturally, African Americans have contributed a tremendous amount to the culture of this country, and we continue to do so. So don't you dare say that the African Americans are at the bottom rung of our society culturally.
Perspective to say, can you do something about justice as it's meted out in America for black people? Can you make a difference in the outworking of a faith set of values?
Any one of you can answer this question, and I would love for you to do so, and that is this here. Here's a candidate who's been married 3 times, who's cheated on his wife, who has openly mocked Hispanics, who has a long history when it comes to sexual harassment. For years, I listened to evangelicals talk about character, talk about values, and when I've talked to other evangelical leaders, when I hear from the likes of conservative Eric Erickson and others, they said this man does not represent the values of evangelicals. Could either one of you speak to that when Pastor Standard Bearer, who's saying, hey, I'm one of you, when his history doesn't necessarily say that?
I think we have to be careful here when we start to bring up moral consistency in a comparison between Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Actually,
okay, see, and this guy, right off the bat, he throws in Bill Clinton. Ain't nobody mentioned Bill Clinton whatsoever. Bill Clinton, as Roland is going to state, is not running. So he automatically ran to Bill Clinton. Now, I don't know if this guy is a defender of Trump or not, but he interjected something that wasn't there.
make me want to go there.
No, actually I didn't. Pastor, 1 second. Pastor Bernard, 1 second. First, I didn't compare those two because Trump is running against Hillary Clinton and not Bill Clinton. What I'm speaking to as somebody who is an evangelical, who is married to a pastor, I've listened for 30 years, and Bishop Harris Jackson, you know we discussed this. Yeah. I've listened to evangelicals themselves talk about character, morals, values, standards, and now all of a sudden you have a candidate who frankly goes against what they've all been preaching for 30 years. And so I find it interesting that the likes of Jeffers and Jared Falwell Jr. are saying, yay, I'm with Trump, which is counter to what they've been preaching for 30 years in politics. Pastor Bernard, go ahead, then Bishop Jackson.
You're absolutely right in what you're saying, but I think evangelicals find themselves in a place where they're going to have to put aside some of the list of criteria that they have for a leader and determine which leader will most effectively represent what's most important to them right now. That's where they are. That's the reality.
And one of the problems we've had with the white evangelical community is we're big on righteousness, but we forget about justice. And at this particular point, part of the moral bar that's got to be set is, once again, what are you going to do about people who have been left back, pushed out, judged wrongly by the culture? I'm talking about criminal justice specifically, and jobs in America. So I want Mr. Trump to bring the right kind of jobs, right kind of educational opportunities to our people. And one party talks a lot and doesn't follow through. The other group of folk to date have not really done much. You and I have talked about that. They have all these character issues, but they don't have real follow through.
Pastor Burns, go ahead.
It's important to test the makeup of that.
Pastor Bernard, 1 second. Pastor Burns, then Pastor Bernard.
I just wanted to also highlight, Roland, again, your claims are absolutely of the right to talk about someone's previous character and to question why it has so many evangelicals are supporting him. But I also want to bring out the fact that we as leaders in the body of Christ, and those of us who truly believe in the message of Christ, understand that with Christ comes the message of grace and forgiveness. And those who, for all of us, while we were yet sinners, Christ still died for us, and he forgave us even in this.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I want all three of you to answer this question.
Okay, here it comes, because he mentioned forgiveness, but you can't receive forgiveness unless you ask for it, and that's where Roland is getting ready to go right now.
There's a candidate who has said, I have never had a reason to ask God for forgiveness. He then comes back several months later and doubles down on that and says, I still have it. Now, Pastor Burns, I'll let you start, then I'm going to go to Bernard, then Bishop Jackson.
Well, I'm grateful you asked that question.
If you listen to somebody say, I've never had a need to ask God for forgiveness, and we do know that that is the fundamental, one of the most fundamental aspects of Christianity, can you trust that kind of person?
Well, I'm so grateful, again, Roland, that you answered that question, because I've had an opportunity to discuss with him one-on-one that very conversation and to how it was misconstrued, which is one of the reasons, again.
Wait a minute. Number one, the word is misconstrued. And number two, with the detailed statement he made regarding never having to ask God for forgiveness, I saw that, and that was during a debate, and that comment was not misconstrued. So anyway, let him do his double talk deal.
And why Mr. Trump has reached out for this executive, evangelical executive advisory board, why people like Bishop Jackson and A.R. Bernard and others who are on this board will have a wonderful ear of influence. Because when I discussed this with Mr. Trump about asking God for forgiveness and what was that all about, I understand what he was trying to say in his communication. What he was saying, and again, he is not a theology major, nor is he an exegesis of the scripture. What he was saying, and again, he is not a theology major, nor is he an exegesis of the scriptures. He tried to speak from his heart in the way that he understands it and in the world that he has been exposed to. What he was really saying, Roland, was in the Christian world, in the business world, when I do something wrong or if I'm in error to somebody, I try to make it right so that I don't have to act wrong right, so I don't have to ask forgiveness. In the Christian world, and often, and I'm sure you can agree with me, too many of us who claim to be Christians will do wrong by somebody, and they will use the fact that I got to ask God for forgiveness, or I'm asking God forgiveness to just make it right and never make it right with the individual that they done wrong. And so what Mr. Trump was trying to say is, I try to have a character that says, I'm going to do right in the beginning. And if I discover that I made a mistake, I'm going to make it right with the person that I did wrong.
Pastor Bernard, I'm going to read this.
Okay, that was a whole long load of bullshit. Okay? Case in point, Central Park 5. If you don't know about them, look them up and look up what Donald did to attack 5 innocent young men. He still ain't made that right, so.
Quote, Pastor Bernard, Pastor Bernard, I'm going to read the quote, and I want you to respond with your answer. This is what Trump told pollster Frank Luntz last year when he was asked the question about God and correcting errors. Quote, I am not sure I have, Trump said when asked if he'd ever asked God for forgiveness. I just go on and try to do a better job from there. I don't think so, he said. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Go right ahead.
Yeah, look, I agree with Pastor Burns, but I have not had that conversation with Donald Trump. But I do believe, as a result of his relationship with this community of clergy, it's going to expand his theological knowledge base, and he's going to be able to articulate that faith differently if he's really committed to it as he says he is. But Roland, one thing is important. In that room yesterday, in that smaller meeting, all right, the majority of the people in that room were white. Myself and my colleagues next to me here on this broadcast and a couple other individuals represent the small grouping of people of color. We need to be at a table like that. We need to be able to articulate to this man a responsibility to our community. Imagine if there was no one of us there at a table like that.
Oh, I agree.
We need to be at the table in order to get some crumbs, because as you yourself just stated, the majority of the people there were white. They were the white evangelicals. You probably had maybe 5, 6 possible black or minority pastors. I wonder if there were any Hispanic pastors there. But anyway, and the only guy that actually did take a positive action was the black pastor that actually videotaped his statements. The rest of you guys more than likely kept your mouth shut.
No, I absolutely agree, but that's also why I believe, Bishop Jackson, as we discussed before, when I previously had several pastors on, black pastors who met with Donald Trump, my position is the same whether it's Trump or Hillary Clinton, and that is when you are a minister of the gospel, you bring a prophetic voice, not a political partisan voice. You can answer the question dealing with forgiveness. And then that last response.
Well, I agree with both of these gentlemen. I think we're going to have to bring Mr. Trump along in terms of the practice and outworking of his faith. I think he's very open, though, and you see a different person.
Does he have a church? Does he have a church home?
I believe so. He says he's a Presbyterian.
Was his pastor at the meeting yesterday?
I don't know.
Okay.
His pastor, you know damn well his pastor wasn't at that meeting, at least that smaller meeting. Maybe he was able to slip into that 300, but if it were me, my pastor would have been at the smaller meeting, and also at the main meeting. So we all know that Donald Trump, if he has a pastor, which I highly doubt, wasn't at that meeting.
We were with about 20-some leaders, and we're going to have that opportunity to speak to him And we're very thankful to be at the table. And I hope that we're going to see, again, an agenda that will challenge both the Democrats and the Republicans to step up and put some real policies on the table.
Bishop Jackson, Pastor A.R. Bernard, Pastor Mark Burns, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Donald Trump is going to listen to his Evangelical Advisory Board as much as he listens to everybody else, which is, other than his kids first and his wife second, is very little. Okay, he's going to roll these guys out there as he needs to, but as far as taking any type of a cue or any type of instruction from these guys, he would be better off going, like I said, to a Bible class on a Wednesday night at a church rather than dealing with these guys, because he's not going to get anything dealing with these guys for the most part. Whereas in a Bible class, he'd have to sit there and at least listen respectfully, you would hope, and then voice his opinion or get up and walk out. Anyway, I'm going to add to this the segment that follows this from Roland Martin's panel in the discussion of this. So hang on one second.
Panel here, Lauren Victoria Burke, Steve Ministeri, Laura Coates, and then of course we have Mr. Politics and Pros over here, Steve. Matt, I'm trying to understand something here, y'all.
Take your time.
All we've heard for 30, 40 years, Steve, I'm gonna start with you. Character, values, morals, all this sort of stuff. And you heard Pastor A.R. Bernard just say there where evangelicals are having to make a decision, but that's where conscience comes in. And it is as if you have pastors who are making partisan political decisions, not prophetic decisions.
Well, one thing I learned about the evangelical community, having been one of the senior advisors to the Rand Paul campaign, and we learned this lesson very painfully, is that actually evangelical voters do not necessarily vote on what you would think would be the evangelical issues.
Well, they keep saying they do.
I hear what you're saying, but the truth of the matter is when you do the polling, they're voting on the same issues as the other Republican primary voters.
So really what they've been doing is lying to the American public for all these years, talking about, oh, no, it's my faith. I'm making decisions through my faith, because, I look at someone like Eric Erickson, staunch conservative, who has said, as a person of faith, I cannot vote for Donald Trump as a matter of conscience.
No, I think it's too harsh to say that they're lying. It's just that they have multiple sets of issues that affect them, and the issues that people think would be their priority issues turn out not to be the priority.
It's not just about influence on power. They're trying to influence power. I mean, one of the pastors made that point. I'm a little bit stunned because this is a presidential candidate that has said that he wants to ban a certain religious group from the country. They seem to have no problem with that. They seem to have no problem with the immigration policy of build a wall. They have no problem with the Central Park 5 case. They have no problem with some of the biggest moral questions that have come up that Donald Trump has been on the wrong side of. That doesn't faze anybody, but they're trying to influence power. And one of them just admitted it. I think it was Bishop Jackson. He just admitted that we're trying to influence this presidential candidate.
Lauren Victoria Burke hit it out of the park. They are trying to influence power and be near power.
Okay.
Issues that they pick, they're cherry picking, are good for the time that they need it. Is it that they're using those issues when they want to and using faith when they want to, when they really should be either sitting in faith, like you said about Eric Erickson, or just saying, hey, I'm not a voter that chooses what I support based on my faith.
For those of us in the church, we call that situational ethics.
This is all about manipulation. And I sat here, and I was deferential and respectful in listening to what they had to say, but my eyebrows were raised, my eyes were turned sideways, because what I saw was, look, when you are a religious leader, and if you're a political leader, you have a responsibility to actually do the leading of the fellowship you have. And you have these particular pastors don't seem to distinguish between whether they're leading the people through the Red Sea following Moses or leading the Pharaoh. And so there seems to be an issue about when they conveniently select religion to figure out who to manipulate people to follow. And in reality, who could care less about his sexual escapades? Lauren, you have it absolutely right. There are much more important issues than whether or not he's been married before. This is a man who consistently has downgraded entire populations of people. That is the issue.
No. Both are the issue, because I bring up that because all I have heard from evangelicals since the moral majority came to rise in 1979 and 1980, it is about morals and values and character. That's how folks were judged. And again, you got Donald Trump, who stood there trying to question the faith of Hillary Clinton, question the faith of President Barack Obama. We ain't never seen his church. We've never met his pastor. If you actually are this Christian you say you are, you would have had your pastor. Let me go back to Jeremiah Wright. When Obama announced his candidacy, it was Reverend Jeremiah Wright who prayed with the folks before they went outside. I ain't never seen somebody step up and say, I'm Donald Trump's pastor. So
you are judging his faith based on whether or not he goes to church.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if you are going to stand there in front of evangelicals and question Hillary Clinton's faith and President Obama's faith, then we can examine your faith. And as a Christian leader, I would have said, excuse me, you don't have the right to question somebody else's faith and then dance around it. And that's what he did.
I'm going to take it a step further. You have an advisory board now. You have been on record as making xenophobic, racist, sexist, and homophobic comments. How is this advisory board now influencing you? What influence are they going to have? Are you going to listen? Because you've now been the candidate who doesn't listen to any type of
motivation. African American issues is an interesting comment, given that Donald Trump has shown us absolutely nothing in terms of policy detail on that. They're claiming that they want to influence him on African American issues. My thing is, just admit you want to influence power.
Here's the deal. Steve, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with influencing that. But all I'm saying is this here. If when you are a pastor, when you are a religious leader, again, you have the job of the prophetic to speak truth to power. Look, it was one of the prophets who told David, you were wrong when you slept with Bathsheba. And what I'm saying is, I don't believe you sit there and you do a dance with a politician. You got to be able to say, here you're right, here you're wrong.
The number one issue I found when I was party chairman, we did extensive polling of most of the communities. Number one issue in the African American community, guess what? It was the same number one issue in the Hispanic community, and it was the same number one issue in the white community. Everybody gives the same number one issue, jobs and the economy. So people then get surprised when evangelical voters don't vote on, evangelical issues. It's the appeal on the economy. The most recent polls show that a majority of Americans believe that Donald Trump will do better on the economy than Hillary Clinton. So therefore, it shouldn't be any great surprise that a majority of evangelical voters
Here's the deal. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, don't stand there and play a game and you want to question her faith and question the faith of the president when you stand up and actually said, 2 Corinthians.
Why do you care about the tit for tat about comparing who is more religious?
Because this is a man who sat there and questioned the legitimacy of the president, who suggested that he was a Muslim.
Roland,
I'm not going to allow him to get away with it. Somebody has to challenge him on.
And you're right to challenge him, but it's a bigger issue, and you're smart enough to know, and everyone on his panel is smart enough to know. When he was making the comparison about Barack Obama being a Muslim, he's trying to capitalize on people's fear of his
I know exactly what he's doing.
Not about whether or not
I know exactly what he's doing, and what I'm not going to do is what Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German theologian, put in his book on the issue of cheap grace. That's cheap grace. And my deal is this here. As an evangelical, as a man of faith, I'm going to have a prophetic voice and call somebody out when you want to question somebody else's faith. But then you don't want somebody to challenge your faith. If you don't want your faith challenged, shut up about somebody else's faith. That's what Donald Trump should do. I got to go to a break.
All right, so pretty much this portion, back portion of the video, it basically covered my thoughts on it. I'm going to close this out by saying that Donald Trump may call himself a Presbyterian, okay? He may call himself a Christian, but everybody that calls himself a Presbyterian and everybody that calls himself a Christian isn't. I would say ain't, but if you want to be proper, isn't. So I honestly believe that if this man opened up a Bible 10 times in his adult life, that 10 is inflated by 9.